Island Carib communities were primarily agricultural, though not as extensive as those of the Taino. They grew and consumed manioc, making it into cassava bread. They also ate a stew that was known as pepper pot. Details about island Carib subsistence suggest that land crabs and shellfish were supplemented by agouti, birds, lizards, sea turtles, and fish. As they were for the Taino, tobacco and cotton were also important for the island Carib. Gardens were placed in protected locales, sometimes at great distances from island Carib habitations. Because of their more aggressive postures towards the Spanish, French, English, and Dutch, and anyone else who threatened their sovereignty, the island Carib of the Lesser Antilles were erroneously characterized as cannibals. Clearly, claims of island Carib cannibalism are based on ethnohistory, that is, from European accounts written in the chronicles about native populations in the island Caribbean. Ethnohistorical sources cannot be entirely trusted as they are often laden with cultural biases. This is why Osvaldo Garcia Goco stresses about ethnological comparisons. A critical reading of Columbus's diary, mostly written by Bartolomé de las Casas, based on third-hand transcriptions, reveals a litany of half-truths and preconceived ethnocentric ideas about the native peoples of the Caribbean. And keep in mind, again, this was because of first contact interactions. The following entry by Columbus, dated November 4th, 1492, has been interpreted as proof of the admiral's knowledge of cannibalistic practices among the island Carib. Quote, Columbus also understood that far from there were one-eyed men and others with snouts of dogs which ate men, and that as soon as one was taken, they cut his throat and drank his blood, end quote. Columbus observed wounds on the bodies of the islanders and interpreted what he saw as signs of warfare with the Caniba, or Carib people of the Grand Khan. Based on Greek and Roman mythology, Columbus described the Caribs as mythical beings with snouts of dogs who ate men, Keegan said. Studying scores of entries in Columbus's diary between 1492 and 1493, Keegan had argued in a study appearing in the 2015 issue of Ethnohistory that the wounds Columbus observed were the result of hostile trade relations with neighboring islanders, not attacks by cannibals. Cannibals were often viewed as natives who refused to submit to the Spanish, and often, because of this, the Spanish referred to them as cannibals. They were characterized as idolaters and consumers of human flesh who could not be converted into Christianity and were therefore suitable for enslaving. Caniba, Columbus's goals including having an audience with the Grand Khan of China. He used the term Caniba to refer to the people he encountered because he mistakenly believed he was meeting the subjects of the Grand Khan. The Spanish distinctions between peaceful Taino and warlike island Carib were without self-interest. The people Columbus believed could be converted to Christianity came to be known as the peaceful Taino, while those who resisted were pagans who deserved harsh treatment as enslaved people. In fact, agitation against slave taking by priests who managed Spain's missionary efforts in the Greater Antilles caused the crown to forbid slave taking among Indians who were friendly to the Spanish. But in 1503, in response to economic interests, Queen Isabel excluded all cannibals from this ban. The Crown legally defined cannibals as barbaric people, enemies of the Christian, and those who refused conversion, and those who ate human flesh. Island Carib appear by name in connection with enduring hostilities towards the Spanish colony in Puerto Rico throughout the 16th century, when they seem to have used the island of St. Croix as a base for their raids. And this is important for the end of this take. The archaeological evidence indicates that Arawak speaking island Carib moved into the vacuum left by the disappearance of the Suzanne Tramozoid in the Lesser Antilles around AD 1450. The island Carib men of the 15th century emphasized warfare, including raiding Taino villages, obtaining additional wives. And once again, this will be important for the end of this take. The men also undertook long distance expeditions to South America. There were also considerable inter-island interactions among the island Carib of the Lesser Antilles. The island Carib of Tobacco, for example, kept close trade contacts with their counterparts in St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Grenada. By deconstructing his diary, Keegan had found that Columbus, who did not understand the indigenous language, imposed his own expectations on situations he observed. His conclusions were based on his belief the islands he had reached were off the coast of Asia and near the people of the Grand Khan. Quote, this finding adds a humanity to these people that they don't usually get from the general public, end quote. Keegan has said. Europeans were fascinated by the notion of cannibals, but there's no evidence that the ancestors of the modern Caribs were ever cannibals. The more militant island Carib of the Lesser Antilles, who adopted more aggressive postures towards these individuals that came into the Caribbean post 1492, were inaccurately categorized as cannibals. In fact, the word Carib soon became a general Spanish term for hostile natives. However, to date, no concrete evidence, again, has been found that would confirm claims of cannibalism, especially in the Caribbean. What did Columbus aim to do? In the 15th and 16th centuries, Europeans wanted to find sea routes to the Far East. Columbus wanted to find a new route to India, China, Japan, and the Spice Islands. If he could reach these lands, he would be able to bring back rich cargoes of silks and spices. Columbus instead arrived into the Caribbean. The people recorded as Caribs in the chronicles are the Kalinagos, and they are cassava eaters, not cannibals. Their language is Karipuna, a gift from Arawakan women, as Jerry previously mentioned. They are not creatures in Taino mythology. The only connection in the story of Arawaks is taken of the women from other tribes, like in the Wahayona account. So the only connection is with the Caribs is the story of the taking of the women. And there's no evidence that Caribs were ever cannibals.